Episode number 767, Be a Big Thinker.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
Well, I've been at the BNI Malaysia National Conference this week, and I recently did a European summit by video on the Big Thinker Summit, which is the topic of today's podcast.
Okay, great. Well, you have to help us become a big thinker.
So I recently did this welcome to the BNI Big Thinker Summit in Europe, which was for BNI directors around the world. And I love the concept of a Big Thinker Summit, and I was really proud of BNI for putting it together. Here are some of the things that I shared with everyone at this summit, and I'd love to talk about it when I'm finished here, Priscilla.
Okay.
What I'm going to say next is so much more than a soundbite to me. It's a belief about thinking big. I really believe that our vision controls our perception, and our perception becomes our reality. I'm going to repeat that. Our vision controls our perception, and our perception becomes our reality. Don't become so attached to a limiting belief that you can't see past what is possible. I think it's important to move past limiting beliefs and move towards meaningful beliefs. Think big. The size of your success is determined by the size of your belief. Think little goals and expect little expectations. Think big goals and smash other people's expectations of you. You know, it takes the same energy to think big as it does to think small. Sure, if you think big, you're sometimes worried about whether you can achieve those dreams. But when you think small, you're disappointed in yourself because you didn't achieve the success you wanted. I don't know about you listening to this podcast, but I'd rather be a bit worried than disappointed in myself. Think big. It takes as much energy as thinking small, but you can end up in a much better place. And don't let small minds convince you that your dreams are too big. There are those voices that will stand on your shoulder and tell you why your dream isn't realistic. I had that. Remember the story of my dream to have 10,000 chapters of BNI? I talked about it a couple of times. Most recently was podcast episode number 753. I didn't let that guy influence my dream. That guy who was saying 10,000 chapters, really? Seriously? You know, you've only got 30. How can you have 10,000 chapters? I didn't let him influence my dream. Don't let small minds influence your big dreams. I've seen ordinary people do extraordinary things throughout my career. I believe anyone can do extraordinary things with the right mindset, a good plan, and a lot of effort. The last time I was on Necker Island, Richard Branson's island, I heard Richard say that if people aren't calling you crazy, you're not thinking big enough. And I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I've had people throughout my career say, "Are you kidding me? Are you crazy?" And I didn't care. I didn't care because I had a plan. I had tested it out. Things were working. I knew it was possible. To inspire others, you must first inspire yourself. If you want to be big, you need to start thinking big and behaving big. Don't be a product of circumstances. Be a product of your decisions. I'm going to repeat that one. Don't be a product of circumstances. Be a product of your decisions. One of my greatest lessons in life was learning that I can alter my life by altering my beliefs, by altering my attitude, and by altering my behavior. Long ago, I recognized that I might not be able to make a world of difference, but I could make a difference in the world. I could make that difference one person at a time, one chapter at a time, and then one region at a time. By doing that long enough, I think I've made a larger impact in the world. The big difference starts with making a difference for one person at a time. Start there and stay with it. You have the power to change people's lives. Think big, my friends. Anything less is not a good use of that opportunity. It was a short message today, Priscilla, but I think it was an important one for people to hear, especially in these times when everything seems confusing and difficult and challenging. And it's important today more than ever to think big and to think about what's possible.
Yeah, I think it's great, Ivan. I love this podcast. I have a story, but it's kind of a little bit different, but it's about the inner person, that restricts you.
Yeah.
And it happened when I was a lot younger and I was studying martial arts and I was trying to get my black belt, which I eventually got. And the leader of the
dojo, the sensei?
Yes. The style is Kuksul Wan, and he was the grandmaster, and he wanted me to fight in a competition. And I was there and I got scared and I decided not to do it. And what I learned after that was I regretted that so much that I made a promise to myself that if I ever had a choice between doing something that seemed too hard and doing the opposite or nothing, that I would always choose doing something that I thought might be too hard, because I hated the feeling I had when I didn't take on that challenge.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you're talking about. Not exactly, but it sort of relates.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's important to take on those challenges, to think big. I know we've done a podcast in the past with Dr. Mark Golston where he talks about, stepping up and trying. That if you give up, you're never going to succeed. But if you keep trying, you have the opportunity to succeed. Never give up, because you'll never, if you give up, you'll never succeed. But if you keep trying, you have the opportunity to succeed.
Right.
And, I did a podcast with him here years ago that he talked about that. And I think it's a powerful concept.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Well, that's it for today, Priscilla. And I would love to hear from members if there is something in any of the podcasts like this one that I have shared with you that have helped you to think big and to help you in business. I would love to see it in your comments on this podcast. As I've mentioned many times, I read every comment that's posted here on BNI Podcast. And so if there's anything I have ever shared in any of the podcasts that's helped you think big, please share it here on today's podcast. Thank you very much, Priscilla. Back to you.
That's so great. Thank you so much, Dr. Meisner. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioprograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioprograms.com and use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.